This little booklet is issued to every Chinese citizen after they are born. It dictates where a person can go to school, which exam paper they take in the university entrance exam, what medical benefits a person received at a hospital, and where a person can buy an apartment. And it is all determined by one thing: your birthplace. This is called a hukou, or household registration. For nearly 7 decades, it has been a way for China to categorize its citizens so that the workforce can be channeled to fulfill the changing developmental needs of the country. But the China of today is very different from what it was in the 1950s and 60s. The government has had to adapt the hukou system to keep up with the times. So, what is China's hukou system and how is it changing? The hukou has always been one of the most closely watched administrative systems in China. Faced with a country ravaged by civil war, the Communist Party adopted a Soviet-style planned economy to rapidly rebuild and industrialize the newly founded People's Republic of China. The hukou system divided the country's population into 2 main groups: rural and urban.
The guiding principle of our country's socialist construction is to simultaneously develop both industry and agriculture on the basis of giving priority to the development of heavy industry. We can neither allow an unchecked increase in the urban labor force, nor can we permit a blind outflow of rural labor.
Even now, parents are required to register their newborns with local police to obtain a hukou. When the system was established, an urban hukou holder had access to relatively better food rations, hospital services, and state-appointed employment. Rural residents, on the other hand, were tied to the land to produce surplus agricultural goods, and many could only get medical attention from minimally trained barefoot doctors. Back then, there were only a few ways for someone to legally change their hukou, such as joining the army or enrolling in a university. And it was extremely difficult for people without government-issued papers, stating their travel purpose to go from their hometowns to other locations for a visit, let alone to pursue employment or education. However, as China abandoned the Soviet-style planned economy in the late 70s, Beijing realized the hukou system was incompatible with the market economy reform it hoped to embrace. When Deng Xiaoping introduced the Reform and Opening Up policy in 1978, and when China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, economic powerhouses such as Shenzhen suddenly realized they desperately needed millions of workers to fill their booming assembly lines and to build key infrastructure like roads and bridges. So authorities loosened the hukou regulations and allowed rural residents to come to live and work in cities. Millions of Chinese left the countryside for better job opportunities in coastal economic hubs like Shenzhen and Shanghai. These people became 农民工, peasant workers, a group more commonly known as migrant workers. The number of migrant workers rose from under 230 million in 2009 to almost 300 million in 2025. This massive influx of labor helped fuel China's economic miracle. During those 16 years, the nation's GDP grew from $5 trillion to nearly $20 trillion as China became the world's second largest economy. Major cities like Shanghai had also made it possible for outsiders to obtain hukou by introducing a point-based system for residencies. But such systems are mostly designed for young talent with advanced degrees. For the massive group of poorly educated peasant workers, the hukou system continued to stand in the way of integrating with host cities.
The employment is improving, but their social rights to have entitlement to basic social services was just lagging behind for a long time. It didn't change from the past legacy. And also, when there's attempt to change, the cities were were kind of unhappy about to make it equal. Not only the government, but also the urban population.
Since migrant workers could not enroll their children in urban public schools without a local hukou, millions of parents were forced to leave their children behind in the countryside. This created a generation of left-behind children. By the 2010s and 2020s, tens of millions of children were being raised by aging illiterate grandparents or living by themselves in hollowed-out rural villages. Many left-behind children suffered severe psychological trauma, higher school dropout rates, and an increased vulnerability to crime and accidents. But the plight of migrant workers is not only felt by their children. Workers who built China's modern cities in previous generations face a bleak reality as they reach retirement age. Because their social insurance was tied to their rural hukou, they spent decades paying into urban economies but received none of the retirement benefits. This lack of urban pensions or comprehensive medical care has left millions of elderly migrant workers with no choice but to return to their impoverished villages, where they often work as farmers into their 60s and 70s. Authorities have been introducing measures to tackle such problems. In some areas, local officials visit left-behind children, or they allow citizens to use their medical insurance outside their hukou locations. On the other hand, the age of double-digit GDP growth seems to be over in China, and the country's population is rapidly aging. This generation of migrant workers is no longer just working in factories and construction sites. They deliver meals and packages on scooters, drive ride-hailing vehicles, or sell clothes while live streaming. They are gig workers who are more mobile than ever. In 2025, nearly 55% of migrant workers had jobs in the service industry, while fewer than 45% work in the manufacturing sector. This social crisis and the fast-changing economic situation made Beijing and local governments realize that the hukou system needed a more radical overhaul. In May 2026, the central government mandated that all basic public services be tied definitively to one's place of long-term residence rather than to their official hukou. Authorities will also make it easier to transfer social insurance contributions between regions, resolving another problem faced by a highly mobile workforce.
Things have already changed locally, or partly in part of China, the western provinces, and they had already allow the nearby rural area people to move into their cities, and they could even apply for social housing. But if you look at other places like coastal area, maybe they were more motivated to deal with education because their birth rate is low, and they may not have enough students. So they want to open up more schooling opportunities to a certain extent before they go to universities, right? What this policy can change is actually make those areas that haven't started making the changes will have to introduce changes.
In recent years, city governments across China have also engaged in a so-called war for people to bolster economic activities within their jurisdictions. Places like Chongqing will grant a hukou when a person purchases a home in the city. In northeastern China, cities like Shenyang even provide a hukou to people who rent a home.
I actually think if the renhu is separated, there's no need to remove the hukou. The reason the hukou is such a problem is because welfare is attached to it, right? So now once they change that you can just get the service wherever you are, the household registration is just almost like a census. So this can actually help to trace how many people you actually have, and then and also have lived there for how long, and then if they are permanent, and we can allocate resources to there directly. So it's a statistics tool rather than a human control tool.
China hopes that by severing the tie between a person's birthplace and social benefits, it will smooth the flow of manpower and capital, and as a result, narrow the rural-urban gap, speed up urbanization, and boost public consumption.